to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today, so tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week I have none other than special guest Kat Truewalker, who is joining me as we dive into Sea of Thieves, some lore, some discussion about who she is, how she's been in the community since the beginning of the game and before, and all of the news that we got this week regarding the latest Inside Xbox reveal of the new update coming on April 22nd. All that and more in this week's episode of Keelhauled Podcast. All right, pirates, before I get into the interview, I did want to do a couple announcements. Last week's episode, I was going pretty quickly, and I made a couple of mistakes that you may have caught. So in the story that I was telling you, I mentioned that I was getting attacked by cannon shot or anchor shot instead of a harpoon shot. So they were trying to harpoon me with the rowboat as I was trying to get away with there. But more importantly, the dog reached out to me on Discord and let me know that I made a bit of a mistake regarding the obsidian fishing rod. See, last week I talked about how a lot of the codes for the obsidian gear is given outside of the game. And this is one exception, that the obsidian fishing rod was a reward as of the gift of giving holiday event, the December event that they had day 4. You would go out and do some Ruby Splashtail stuff for the Hunter's Call, and if you went out there during that day, you would actually get the obsidian fishing rod. So I just wanted to reach out and say that thank you to Dog for sending that message to me, letting me know that I messed up a bit in the discussion. As always, I know that a lot of the time when I am recording, I tend to say stuff fast and loose. I know I said that I think it was the Verge article mentioned that there was 90 million, and I was saying that there was 1 billion accounts. There are 1 billion accounts worldwide, but there are 90 million worldwide active users as of the last year. So thanks to Schlugenda who mentioned that in the Discord channel as well for any of the confusion. So all of that aside, again, thank you guys for letting me know. I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate you letting me know if I mess up on something, if it's something that needs to get corrected. I tend to misspeak from time to time, and I think I see a lot of other podcasters that do it, especially when we're speaking off of our knowledge and not a script. I know a lot of people tend to use a script, and that's a good way to get comfortable with what you want to talk about, but it tends to sound rigid. It tends to sound non-conversational, and it's important to sound conversational or natural, at least to me, when I'm making this podcast, because most of the time I tend to do it solo. Well, maybe not the start of this year, but most of the time I've been doing it solo. So I like to feel like I'm kind of talking to you the way that I would talk to anyone when we get into these conversations about the news, about updates and things like that. So I appreciate your guys' feedback, and I just wanted to get that up in front and center, let you know I'm sorry I messed up. I will try to do better in the future. As always, I try not to do that. Sometimes I'll go back and re-record things, kind of like how I did last week too. But I wanted to get you guys this conversation with Kat. It's a little bit longer of an episode, but we had a really good time talking, and we hit on a couple things that I was kind of surprised that kind of came up. A couple ideas sparked as we were talking about some of the things that are coming up with the April 22nd update, which I'm really excited about, and I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy this. I had a really good time, and I can't wait to talk to her again. Well, yeah, so I wanted to bring you on for a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons that I wanted to bring you on is I'm reaching out to a lot of the folks that have Easter eggs in the game. It's kind of a running theme if anyone's kind of checked that out. This is, I think, the first time I've actually mentioned it, except for you've been in the game for a very long time, and you're not even just in the game, like you're actually in one of the books.
Yeah.
And which I think is so cool. It's so awesome that there's so much to you. I personally have always just kind of known you as the retweet queen. So
Yeah.
like every morning around probably 3 or 4 a.m. my time, I start seeing all these random Sea of Thieves tweets start populating my thread, and I'm like, what is all this? This is cool. And then I realize you're scouring the Sea of Thieves tag on Twitter and just retweeting anything that's worthy.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's just, being, a deckhand, like a community ambassador. It's nice to be able to go through like sort of different social media, and I quite like Twitter, and just highlight the great things that are going on, because it doesn't always appear, on places like the forums, or Reddit is quite a good place sometimes, but people post a lot of stuff on Twitter. You're laughing there about Reddit. I quite like Reddit. Sort of like smacks of pirates, But these people, new players and old players post stuff on Twitter, and sometimes it just sort of gets sort of lost, very quickly in sort of like the flow of things. But I just like to sort of highlight some of the things people have been doing, or talking about, or they got a cool screenshot, and the artwork. There's so much fantastic artwork on Twitter.
God, right?
Yeah, these creators, amazing.
So many of them I've started following because of retweets that you've put out. It's ironic that we talk about how Sea of Thieves community is kind of spread out among the masses across all the different social mediums and stuff. And you do such a great job of taking the time every day, practically every day, to go through and yeah, there may be like one Saturday or something, or out of the week you might miss it or something, but for it's pretty regular. And I usually count on it like as a normal routine that I usually catch. But it's funny that you spend so much time trying to promote other people's work, because you've taken this and you coined it very well, an ambassador for the community, which I think is what most of the deckhands consider themselves, not necessarily as a kind of as a go-between between the rare staff and the community, because I feel like the rare staff tend to have a fairly good bead on what the pulse is with the community. They generally understand what people's requests and desires are and stuff. So it feels a little less like you guys have to be that go-between on the forums like it used to. No, that's not to discredit. Yeah, not to discredit what you still always do. I know. I still see a lot of the deckhands being very vigilant on the forums and making sure that anyone that has questions on the official forums that pop up, that you tend to redirect them to answers that have already been posted. So I, not to discredit the forum work that you guys do, but it does feel like I've had fairly good contact with the rare devs. I hardly ever go onto the forums, but it's just because of how present they try to be with most of their regular lives and stuff. And once you start to get to know them and follow them on Twitter, it's kind of surprising that they're so open to talking with people. But that kind of goes back to less about how you guys are trying to facilitate the devs as far as like getting information out there, because they seem to be doing a good job with that. But you've kind of flipped it. Now you're actually, instead of trying to point people to the answers that the devs have put out, you're actually trying to point the devs to content that the community is making. And
yes,
it feels like a lot of that is as a result of, for the most part, this game just exploding as far as the number of users go. I mean, so full disclosure, an old buddy of mine, Derek Blaze, interviewed you forever ago.
Yes, he did.
And
yes, he did.
When the game first came out, he and I kind of popped into the whole Sea of Thieves podcast scene pretty early on. He was maybe a couple weeks after I booted mine up way back in February, and I love going back and listening to that interview with you. For one, it was a long one. For two, it really kind of characterized the game at its current state. And listening to you guys,
I was going to say I can't remember a thing that I said during that, so my answers may well have changed completely. You know, this time around.
Oh, trust me, yeah, I'm willing to bet they have. I'm totally willing, because there's a lot of stuff that was talked about in that interview that we actually ended up getting.
Yes,
and in fact, I would say that the key one being fishing and rowboats that you guys talked about.
Yeah.
But the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of people from when the game launched are probably familiar with who you are, but having you on was kind of the reason why I wanted to kind of reintroduce you to a lot of the new pirates that have either started listening to this podcast and haven't heard about you and don't go on Twitter that much, or may not know that you have been in the game probably longer than most. There's maybe a couple of the community members, some of them that work at Rare now, that have been sticking around. So I wanted to kind of give you the floor and kind of talk about your history, a little bit of your history as far as transitioning communities from one game to the next with Pirates of the Caribbean Online, but also what it's been like over the last 2 years since the game's actually come out.
Yeah, sure. I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for wanting to talk to me. It's been a massive change, hasn't it, over the last more than 2 years since the forums opened, you could say.
For sure.
So the change in from a tight-knit little community where we didn't have a clue what was going to happen, to the alpha, to the beta, to release, and since then, the numbers of people who sort of dip their toes in the sea, it's just thousands and thousands, and while it's not quite the intimate community that it used to be, there still is that sort of almost a small town feel to it, if you like, because I still recognize a lot of the names that I see on Twitter or the forums and Reddit elsewhere, as well as trying to sort of welcome the new ones, the new pirates, and it would be nice for everybody to be able to sort of feel that, or catch a glimpse of that community feeling that we had and we still have in part, I think. So that's why I do what I do.
You kind of mentioned that. I feel like that is, I mean, maybe this is just the me kind of being in it at the moment, but I kind of feel that way with the Everwild Discord right now, because there's a lot of old souls from Sea of Thieves that have definitely jumped into that Discord channel and or server, and it feels like I'm just kind of watching the birth of a community with Everwild, and I wonder if you've seen that, or if you kind of see the parallels there or not.
Yeah, no, I have to be honest. I haven't. I've joined the server, but I haven't actually been in there to sort of look at the discussions. But I really wouldn't be surprised, especially if they're the same personalities sort of joining in the conversation. But it is the same process, isn't it? It's the the birth of a new game, and you're going to have that whole, I don't know, sort of soup of ideas being sort of floated around, and discussions and sort of thoughts about what might come sort of in the future with that particular game. So it must be an interesting place, actually.
When Sea of Thieves was being whispered about, this was at a point where, and a lot of the credit goes to your early conversations with Derek, where you were talking about how your kids were playing Pirates of the Caribbean Online, and you've grown up sailing actual ships and being very immersed in the world of sailing in general, and you kind of latched onto that from what it sounded like. And sadly, the game itself was shut down. And I think you even mentioned that the game was shut down on Talk Like a Pirate Day, which bad form on Disney's part. But the community stuck around, and you were talking a little bit about this, and I don't want to walk on or put words in your mouth, but basically the community, from what you said, was that you went from Pirates of the Caribbean to kind of a private server version of it, to eventually finding out about Sea of Thieves. And then when you found out about Sea of Thieves, it felt like everyone that had been together on the Pirates of the Caribbean community transitioned over to this. And I'm wondering, now that we've had Sea of Thieves for a while, for those of us that haven't played Pirates of the Caribbean online, how does it feel compared to what you used to play?
Well, okay, so the Legend of Pirates Online is still ongoing, and it still has a very strong community supporting it, and it's still playable for free. And while at the beginning I thought quite a few of those pirates would transition over, they didn't in quite the numbers that I sort of expected them to. So there are two or three very well-known pirates, Liz being one, obviously, that sort of did come across, and I think that the remainder of them stayed with the Legend of Pirates Online Potco, if you like, because it's a very PvE based game. It's a very sort of story based game. And there is a little bit of PvP in it, but it's a separate part of the world, and you don't have to have anything to do with it. So it was a different experience to Sea of Thieves, even at the very beginning of Sea of Thieves. So it was a very different experience. But what the similarity between the two was the community. So the community with Potco was quite close knit. Everybody knew everybody else because it was quite a small player base. You'd run across the same sorts of people. Everyone was, sort of pretty chatty and friendly and supportive of each other, and that's the big similarity with the community with Sea of Thieves. There's some absolutely amazing people. The creativity and making the stories and just talking to people and supporting people outside the game and in the game and what have you. So Sea of Thieves, it is a very different sort of game. It's a much, I suppose, in a way, it has a much more dangerous feel to it, if you like, because of that PvP element, that risk that you have every time you set sail. So that's the main difference.
That's interesting. Because as we kind of move into your role as a deckhand and growing up with the game and seeing it evolve, there's been a lot of stuff that has come to the game that we didn't know if it was going to when the game first came out. And I can imagine a lot of the game that is still yet to come. So one of the things that I wanted to ask is, in the past, you've been extremely interested in seeing mermaids or the merfolk represented in the world. That's still a fairly big mystery, even 2 years in. And I'm curious, is that a story that you still desire to see kind of fleshed out into the world?
Very much so. I mean, it's all sort of, I don't know, was sort of stems from the Tales of the Sea of Thieves books. So we were given a lot of sort of hints and clues in that about the role of mermaids, and then later on in the Athena's Fortune. But they are still quite an enigma, aren't they? Although we know a little bit about, they sort of helped chain up the old mother and what have you. And we know there was a bargain made between the pirates and the mermaids to rescue you. But there must be more. Where are they? Where did they come from? Are they malicious? Are they? I think there's just a huge story to be told there. You sail around Sea of Thieves and you go underwater and there's all these ruins. Now, do they belong to the ancient ones and they've sunk beneath the seas? I don't know, earthquakes, something, rise of sea level, whatever. Or are they places that the mermaids used to use? I think, yes, I really would, because one thing I do enjoy about Sea of Thieves is you have that sort of fringe of magic going on, of supernatural things, skeletons coming back to life, the Order of Souls. And I really enjoy that. I like that sort of merging of, sort of real life, almost a pirate world with those sorts of things, because I suppose back in the golden age of piracy and early sailors, early explorers, there was an awful lot of sort of superstition and preoccupation with malevolent forces, or good things going on, and that little bit of magic, and so I would. The answer is yes, please. I would like very much.
It's one of the things that I think Rare has really captured with Sea of Thieves, and they've done such a great job of giving you that mysticism. If anything, I think the last couple of years have really shown that they're more willing to really ramp that up. We've seen before. It's surprising when I think back to before the game was launching. A lot of us had dreams and desires of understanding more about this world, because the hints of it being out in the actual world, being in the crease of a map, hidden away forever, unless those of you who knew how to get there had talked about it. And we had these fanciful ideas of, a kraken possibly being in the game and it being hinted at, and we didn't know if that was actually going to be in the game or what it was going to be like, or at least those that could say didn't know. And once the game came out, we had that feeling of, we understood that there were skeletons, and skeletons were pretty easy to dispatch, but they were kind of a known quantity. But we had this mystery behind the Kraken. How did it work? When did it spawn? Why did it spawn? How come it was always right after you finished a fort? And nowadays it feels like maybe a little bit of an overload with the different threats in the world. Most of us typically refer to the PvE trifecta. When you get hit with all of them, and it's one of those things where, for whatever reason, the timings line up, and you generally have this instance where you'll get krakened, and then a skeleton ship will spawn, and then a megalodon will spawn, and they'll all attack you or each other or ignore you. And it's really interesting that it feels, at least to the pirates that have been in the mix, it's kind of old hat at this point. We're pretty comfortable with it. So I wanted to see, with mermaids coming in, you bring up a good point about how some could be good, some could be bad. We don't really know the story there, and we're hoping that gets fleshed out in the game. How do you feel about the possibility of there being another PvE threat that would fall in line with the current trifecta that we currently deal with? Like, does it feel like maybe that would be a step too far, or something that is just another one of those things that we have to deal with? Or do you feel like more threats the better, as long as they can work out the timing so it doesn't always hit all at once?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. I don't know. Would they necessarily have to be a threat?
No, for sure.
Yeah,
but
because we've also got Flameheart, haven't we? The whole sort of Reaper's Bones thing coming along, and that's going to be a very present danger, isn't it? And that's building up to being something quite sort of significant. So I don't know. Maybe in the way the Easter egg sort of questing was done with you going around
Legends
finding out the
Sea.
lost. Yeah, Legends of the Sea. Someone being in the world and sort of sending you off to find out about more of the lore of the people who are sort of commemorated in the game. Maybe perhaps the mermaids could be done in a way like that. I mean, you've got a character, it's Mercia, haven't you, who was you know, a great researcher, fascinated with the lore and you know, the history of Sea of Thieves and how it worked, why it worked. So perhaps it, you know, it could be done something that way without them actually being a PvE threat. I mean, we have the mermaid statues, don't we? So they're a little bit dangerous, but they're not. So they are. I mean, who placed the mermaid statues? Mermaids, perhaps. But then we also have, if you go back to the art of Sea of Thieves, back in the Comic-Con, I think it was in, I don't remember when it was now, 2016, 17, when they showed the transition from pirate to mermaid. Do you remember that? Yeah,
I do.
And yeah, and now what's that all about? You know, and then even in the trailer, there is, you know, pirate-looking mermaids, sort of looting the ship and picking up the bits of gold or whatever that were lying around. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, aren't there, around that? But you know, I probably wouldn't want to see them as a PvE threat, to be honest. I think it's probably what I'm getting at, because I think, yeah, you're right. I mean, I sometimes imagine, and I've said this to sort of people I say with quite a lot, you know, if you're a brand new pirate coming into the world now, you must, you know, there's plenty to do, you know, commendations and activities and quests and what have you. And then having too much PvE threat, like the Kraken, like the Skelly sloops, like the, you know, the Meg, the aggressive Meg, it's when you put too much of that in someone's way, it becomes very frustrating, doesn't it? And it's a disincentive, I suppose, to sort of carry on doing what you're doing. So that's probably throwing three of them thrown at you at one time it's quite a lot to deal with, isn't it?
Yeah. I 100% agree with what you're saying, and the mere thought of Mercia being in the game as a deckhand or an ambassador to the pirates for the merfolk would be awesome. If I'm being honest,
it would, wouldn't it? Yeah, or even Belle, you know. So we got diving Belle, and she sort of had contact with the mermaids, and you know we've got her sort of untold story, if you like. Going on as well. Yeah.
Belle and Nura, or Diving Belle, or Marissa Belle and Nura are two of the NPCs from the Tales of Sea of Thieves that have been excluded from the game. And I hate that in one aspect, because I absolutely love their characters. I think they're experienced piracy, reading through Flameheart Jr.'s diary or journal, and the quips and the snide comments. Well, not necessarily snide, but the comments they make about how foolish it is are the same things that me, my friends, we would see someone doing something silly out on the sea, and we'd be like, what is he doing? Why is he taking this Reaper's bounty to the outpost? You can't turn it in there. Oh.
Yeah. Yes. So, and the very fact that they've grown up, you know, they've had a childhood in the Sea of Thieves as well is a lovely thought, because obviously there aren't children running around the outposts, are there? You know, we assume they're there
should
somewhere.
Be. It's so strange to me. It feels like something that's it feels like they're trying to push the game in a mindset. It's like, no. We're all adults here. This is going to be a little bit outside of your friends and family kind of realm. And I keep wondering about this golden age of piracy that Chapman talks about frequently, and how we're on the cusp of it. We're not there yet. And I keep looking at the updates and I'm thinking, are we there yet? Is this it? He hasn't said this is it. I'm so confused.
No clues.
But,
No more clues about that. I
yeah,
think possibly we have to get rid of Flameheart first, or
I have
put him to
so
sleep again.
I want
Sorry,
to
go on.
let's dive into this because you've brought it up and it's a great point. Flameheart, who I believe is senior that we're kind of butted up against at the moment, arc wise or story arc wise, is it feels like we're getting to the point where we could be Action Lords based on the curse that was given at the end of Heart of Fire. It could just be that we're going up against Stitcher Jim becoming an Ashen Lord. The Masked Stranger has kind of made this all come to fruition. She's kind of responsible for a lot of this in manipulating Jim, as well as Jim's efforts in trying to get Flameheart's soul released from his body. But I wanted to talk to you about Flameheart because we have two very different Flamehearts that we're aware of. And the Flameheart in Tales from Sea of Thieves did not get very far in the game, or in the world of Sea of Thieves. He made it barely past the first voyage, sank, died, and then turned into a skeleton for Captain. And we find out in Sea of Thieves, the actual game, that Flameheart is someone who's been a tyrant of the seas. He had, at some point, gone back to the regular world, adopted a child, told the child of this world, and then left at some point to go back and have more voyages, but eventually came to rest at his mansion in the regular world before dying. And I'm curious, as someone who's been in the game for a long time and been with the community and the lore and stuff, how do you feel about the Flameheart that we're being portrayed, or the Flameheart that's being portrayed to us as this big bad in an essence, being a father? Because I see Ramses, I see the Pirate Lord, and he's got 2 kids, and it feels like he was in it for the passion of sailing, of being a pirate, and he wanted everyone to appreciate that. But I don't get that sense of fatherly nature with Flameheart Sr. right now. And it begs to question, with both of them being skeletons or souls, ghosts, or skeletal lords, are we going to be able to find this point in the story where we see this Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader confrontation between the two? Is there a point, like you mentioned with mermaids being good and bad, that we'll have a faction of skeletons that are good and are trying to save Sea of Thieves from the person who loves it for what it is the most, a safe haven for pirates, in an effort to try and make sure that future generations of pirates are brought up in it? Sorry, that was a lot to kind of toss at you, but
that's an interesting point, isn't it? I think
so
there is some
kind of starting off,
confusion, isn't there, around the Flameheart, and I think he has to be sort of elder Flameheart, and he has to be sort of almost an ephemeral character, doesn't he? I don't think we should ever actually encounter him in the game world. I think because he's, that magnificent head that we saw that talked to us, in the quest. I think that's he has to be a driver of the actions of others within the world, because otherwise he becomes smaller, doesn't he? He becomes a little bit smaller. I do wonder whether we've got the new sort of content coming out. The Reaper's Bones faction.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'm sort of thinking about, is that a precursor to pirates becoming Ashen Lords? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but yes, I think he may be a father, but he's certainly not fatherly. And I think he's obviously sort of driven by a desire for power, eternal power. Maybe he wants somebody who can take over if he's shoved back in his coffin. I don't know.
It's such an interesting thing because, like, for example, myself, I'm not a father. I've had a father in the past, but having there has to be a certain personality type, and most people have this. There's a few of us out there that don't have this personality type, that desire to have a kid because they love the idea of seeing or having a child and bringing them up. But the person that was Flameheart Jr., we don't actually know his real name, so that could very well be something that they could show up in Sea of Thieves as a skeleton, but go by a different name, and us not actually know that it was Flameheart Jr. So it's quite a possibility in my mind that they could be already in the game or coming to the game at some point under a different guise, and having Flameheart adopt a child, that is a very specific action. Like, you have to want that. But it wasn't so much that he just wanted an heir. He wanted to raise this child and give them the world. And it's such an interesting prospect in my mind. And I don't know if this was just if this is a change in Rare's decision-making process about where they want the story to go and how it feeds into the past of what they've kind of built as far as the story, because I don't get the sense that this tyrannical pirate lord of Flameheart Sr. is the type that would want to raise a child, give them everything in the world, tell them all these fantastical stories on his way to and from the Sea of Thieves, only to die and come back infuriated about something, because it showed he was compassionate to his child. So I don't see how he looks at Sea of Thieves and what's going on with it, and us being friendly with the trade companies, and us being friendly with the mermaids or the merfolk, and us being friendly with alliances and stuff, and not being able to have that empathy, not being able to have that sense of understanding why there would be any sense of compassion or allegiance with each other in Sea of Thieves. It's such a cognitive disconnect for me sometimes when I think about it.
Yes, yes, I see what you're getting at there. Yeah, it is. I suppose we have to see where Rare go with it, don't we? I think one thing that I have learned over the last few years is that things do sort of tend to get explained, but perhaps not in ways that you sort of anticipate, maybe. But
true,
they are very good at putting together the stories.
Yeah.
So I see what you mean about that. It's a bit.
I wanted to
confusing.
mostly kind of put it out there because this is something that, with you seeing how Rare has been for much longer than I have, I wanted to kind of toss the idea out to you, see if there was anything that, if it makes sense the same way it does in my head to you, because I know that you've had this vast experience with being able to jump into it. But you did bring up some really good points as far as like what we're actually getting, and I wanted to make sure that people kind of got the idea of the Inside Xbox event that we got, because we finally got the announcement. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty flippin' excited for this. On April 22nd, we're getting what is effectively the start of year 3 as far as updates go. This was around the time that the first anniversary update came out. This feels like an anniversary update, even though we just got Heart of Fire.
Yes.
And I'm struggling to kind of talk about what they announced versus what I know. as far as like what I've been testing in the Insider, because that's been a really important part of this entire update is the work that's been being done on the Insider to make sure that this update is as clean as possible before it launches.
Yeah.
So
Now, yes, I've been, one of the things I don't do now is I don't tend to sail on the Insider very much because I don't want the spoilers, because I like to experience it in, when it actually comes to the world. So I don't know a huge amount of what's been going on in the Insiders. But it is a very exciting release, isn't it? It's going to be a big change, I think, and an awful lot more choices, I think, for pirates out there, because it sort of legitimizes in a way the PvP.
yeah.
So you can join this faction, you can become an emissary for the Reaper's Bones, you can go out, you can sink people who are flying the flags. So on the other side of it, you've got pirates who are going to be sailing for the companies, who are going to be willing to take that risk of being attacked, deliberately. You're opting in, if you like, to the PvP. So presumably, everybody else can, who doesn't want to take part in any of that, will go about the normal things they want to do, a day's fishing or what have you. But it is a real sort of significant change, isn't it, to how we're going to sail.
It really is, yeah. And having you on is a great opportunity because for a long time we were always told that Rare doesn't want to incentivize PvP. They never wanted to give stats on tracking how many ships you've sunk or how many pirates you've killed because it would lend itself to griefing. And it feels like their answer to that has been building a faction around it and an opt-in situation where the whole system is set up to try and make sure that there's value in sinking other ships, and that's, if that's how you want to play, then you now have a goal to work towards, but only so far. If you're looking to sink ships, you'll get rewarded for it, but only if you focus on certain types of ships that are opting into the system. So to kind of start off for the folks that haven't been keeping track on what's been going on, there's a new system coming on April 22nd called the Emissary system. And this Emissary system is designed to not only expand the current level cap of each of the trade factions minus the Sea Dogs and Hunter's Call, but to also build in a system of committing yourself to a trade company, something that I've been asking for quite a while. I've been wanting them to focus their efforts back on the original 3 trading companies, because that's what new players are faced with, and it's what old players might miss with the system that we used to have. We're so used to going to Duke, getting whatever mercenary voyage is available and just spamming that for a month until the next voyage comes. And there's been so much emphasis on that I don't have regular missions in my voyage wheel anymore. It's strictly just stuff that's from Duke.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a bummer, because I miss being able to pick up and decide, okay, do we want to work on Gold Hoarders tonight, or do we want to go do crates? Maybe we can mix it up a little bit. Now it's just throw a Duke throw a mission down from Duke and pick up loot as we go and turn in what we get. And it has to be like this big mix so that people don't feel like they're not getting faction rep for one thing. And the mermaid gems have helped facilitate the desire for people to not work towards one company. And as a result, it feels like a lot of pirates that are fresh to the game have a gap in knowledge of how to deal with something like mercenaries or merchant alliance.
Yes.
They don't know how crates work. They don't understand about getting animals and things like that. And so with the goal with this is we're finally getting back to an age where the trade companies were the whole reason why you could sustain life in Sea of Thieves. It was less about these little Duke voyages that we were doing and pulling it away from him and bringing focus back onto these characters who are the lifeblood of Sea of Thieves. Without them, we wouldn't be able to survive out here.
No, that's right. I think one of the other point, you talked very sort of well about Duke's quest, the mercenary runs and what have you. I think with the emissary release, because the goals, the progression is much more long term, it will replace that. I don't know. It's like always chasing the carrot type of feeling that you got with sort of Duke's quests and voyages and the commendations, and it has felt for a little while, I think, like we're a little bit on a hamster's wheel, so you must get this done, you've got to get the next one, and then in 2 weeks there's something else coming out, or in a month's time there's something else coming out. So to have something like the emissary with progression, it goes a little bit back perhaps to the original voyage towards Pirate Legend, doesn't it? It's a long-term pursuit that is not going to be, or shouldn't be, let's say, or maybe shouldn't be completed in a couple of weeks, because you're going to get there in the end, and it's the journey towards that, and your encounters with the Reaper's Bones and the other ships you come across that you might want to ally up with, that will create those stories, those experiences, won't it? I think so.
For sure. And you bring up something that I think is something that I've desired for a long time with the game, which is it kind of gets back to that idea of at least when I first started playing the game, a lot of the community, a lot of the social media around Sea of Thieves was, which faction are you going with? And that's actually been something that has returned with this news. We are finally being asked, like, okay, well, which faction do you guys want to go with? Which one are you going to focus on? And that hasn't been a question for years.
Because you used to get people used to dress up, in an outfit that would represent, the Merchant Alliance, wouldn't they? Or they'd be like the police of the Sea of Thieves, or they'd be customs officers, or they'd be, represent one of the other factions. And while that was fantastic, it was fun, it was only a very limited opportunity, wasn't it? Whereas now that's so much more official, and we're going to be out there and recognized, and playing the role of what we want to be. So more more
and the interesting thing about the emissaries is the way you start it, which is like, aside from the fact that you get a full cosmetic set of clothing that really actually show that, hey, this person is dressed like a merchant. They look like they care a lot about their cargo. Their ship represents a lot of what it means to be a merchant alliant. And the same thing with the gold hoarders. The gold hoarders are completely decked out in stuff that looks like the gold hoarders would wear.
Yes.
So you get this opportunity for role play. You get this opportunity to sail up to another ship and be like, "Hello, fellow gold hoarder. How are you doing?"
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, you do all of that, and it just really sort of sends a message to the rest of the people sailing on the seas. This is who you are. This is what you're standing for at the moment. You're a gold hoarder, and you're feeding Ramsey, not Ramsey, Rathbone up in his cave. Yes, with plenty of gold to keep the skeletons.
It's
sort of turning over.
It's real awesome.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed about this is the little table that's next to the actual trade companies. I keep watching the video over and over again. And one of the things that I think is really interesting is once you commit to the gold hoarders, the little toy boat that they use for like the intro for the arena, pops onto the table. And if I'm understanding this correctly, when you commit to an actual trade company or a faction, you are putting yourself on a table. So if anyone walks into any outpost and looks at the tables, they're going to be able to say, "Oh, well, there's 2 gold hoarders on this server. I could do 2 things. I could jump on Reapers and go hunt down those gold hoarders, or I could jump on gold hoarders and go join up with them and really cash it in."
With them. Yeah. So fortunes can be made. Yeah.
So it gives you this, instead of having to try and manipulate the login system to try and get a couple ships on a server so that you can have an alliance with friends, it feels like there's a potential to either really capitalize on the PvP or make new friends, because you see that there are like-minded pirates on the seas that are willing to jump on the faction that you're interested in working in.
Yes. And that is really clever, isn't it? That's a really clever thing that Rare have done, because, one of the big sort of huge requests that people have been making since before I can remember is more peaceful servers, less aggressive servers. And this is a way of facilitating that, isn't it? Yeah. So like you say, if there are going to be, several ships on that table, or other tables, and you can sort of log into the outpost and see that, then you can, like you say, make that choice, can't you? The choice is yours. Again, it's another tool for us to use rather than something being imposed on us, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's exactly what it comes down to is Rare constantly trying to build tools, not rules, as Mike loves to say, that definitely push us in that it forces us into 3 different categories. We can either do our own thing, which may not include emissaries at all. We could sail around without being on the table and be sneaky about that and miss out on the percentage bonus that you're going to be getting with the golden rep from committing to the emissary, but you won't be on the table. Or you could join up and try to build out more of this like-minded server, which isn't necessarily something that says, hey, this is going to be a PvE server. It's more just saying a lot of the people here are kind of in on the same goals. And while we may be interested in taking loot from each other, it might be beneficial to work together in this instance.
Yes.
Which lends itself, it totally lends itself open to the third option, which is you get into a server, you go check out the tables. There's 4 gold hoarder server or ships on this server, all working on emissaries. This is going to be a gold mine for Reapers, Bones. Yes. And if you're the crew that can do it, you could very easily go and start picking off ships one by one. And since they're not in a Discord server talking with each other or an Xbox party chat talking with each other, the likelihood of each other knowing what's going on is going to be lower. And it's going to be like how it was during the time of pirates, where you heard whispers of a ship on the seas that's out there taking out these Spanish galleons full of doubloons. You knew they were out there. Yeah. And with the Reaper's Bones, I'm imagining that this is going to be something where it will probably incorporate some of the things that we've seen with the Reapers in general. So like a lot of emphasis to make sure that if there are Reapers out there, that they're easy to spot in one form or another. And kind of moving into so we have the emissary system, and I like the system because it gives you in session progression with the different ranks that you earn you go up to 5 ranks, and once you get to 5 ranks, you supposedly get a special voyage.
Yes, I've read about that. Yes.
Yeah, so that's a crazy thing. That is awesome. Yeah. It's literally incentivizing you to try and get to rank 5 as quickly as possible, so that you can actually capitalize on this special voyage, hopefully before anyone tries to come hunt you down.
Yes.
And while you're doing that, you are still having that long-term progression through the actual system. So you get to rank 5, and then you probably got a whole bunch of stuff on your ship. So you want to go and you turn it all in to capitalize on the rank 5 for the emissary. You get the bonus, and then you get a special voyage. So it's incentivizing people to go and actually turn in their credit, so that they do get to have that rank 5 turn in, and that's a good stopping point for them at that point. Or they could take the special voyage, whatever it is, and go and actually work on that, and hopefully that would be a really, really awesome kind of expansion of whatever emissary they're working on.
Yes, yeah, because obviously, if you sort of think about it, you are building up your not reputation, but you are more trusted by the faction that you're working for. Then, yeah, it should be whopping great big rewards, shouldn't it?
Yeah,
the special voyage.
And it's a cool concept to think that you're not locked in per session to one faction. You can change it at any point, but you'll probably lose your rank for the emissary that you're committing to. And when you're committed, it feels like there's a sense of pride that if you could sail around as a Merchant Alliant rank 5 for hours on a server, and there's Reaper ships out there, if you can manage to do that, then you can boast about that, because that's kind of what my friends and I are planning on doing. We've been thinking about it a lot. We've been trying to work out like what we want to do, and I think we're going merchant on this. I think we want to be the crew that is the cutthroat cargo crew on the seas, and just to be able to take out, because we can usually take out most ships. I don't think we've ever had too many issues, but to be able to be the crew that can and kind of stuff or take the wind out of a Reaper ship who thinks they're coming for a juicy Merchant Alliance ship, thinking that we're just a couple of pushovers. It gets back to the idea of there being pirate legends sailing around in their Athena ships, getting taken out by the Viva Pinata ship.
Yes, yes, there's little similar parallels to that, isn't there? And it's going to be from the other point of view, for the Reaper crews, it's they could present some really good challenges, but they can also they can pick the level of their challenge, presumably. So if there's just one ship on the server doing a emissary voyage, then that's their target. But like you say, if there's several, so something in there for everybody. I think Order of Souls. I think I'm going to try Order of Souls. Go after those skeletons.
Stick it to the skeletons. I'm still hoping that I've been looking forward to this solely because I would love to get back to running Order of Souls voyages, because I still have yet to actually see myself in game.
Oh, have you not? Oh
no, yeah. So I'm still hoping that the re-emphasis of the trade companies will kind of have that opportunity where I won't just be some random emergent skeleton or the messages in a bottle who always seem to have the same people on those voyages for me, and I'll actually get a chance to find myself.
That would be.
But
I've come across you. I've come across you once or twice. Yeah, I have to say.
I keep wondering, because I hear that and I keep thinking like, am I still in the game? I haven't seen me in a long time or ever.
I think with the the Ashen Keymasters and the newest skeletons, I think maybe they sort of cut back on the named skeletons a little bit. They're not quite as prevalent as they used to be. But I know there's some names that I sort of look for now and again that I haven't seen for quite a while. But
I've been seeing a lot that I've never have. Funny enough.
Yeah, same
here. Been
a
lot of new ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love this emissary system. I think it's going to be really great for the game. I feel like the rank 5 emissaries outside of the Reaper's Bones are going to be the new Reaper flag. Because I feel like the people that want PvP, once they put up a Reaper's flag, they sail around and everyone just avoids them. Yeah. It doesn't feel like back when we had cursed crews where they were like, hey, if you want to fight, throw up the Reaper's mark and they'll come fighting for you. And it's like, no, it's actually kind of the opposite. They just know where we're at and they're constantly going away from us. But if you have a rank 5 merchant alliance, it's like, oh, well, we want that ship.
Yes,
it's like
going for you, yeah.
The old come at me, bro. So I love that aspect of the misrepresentation of a crew's intent. Like we're willing to cart around a couple pigs for a while, but realistically, we just want to fight people. So we're gonna get that and then go turn in their flag.
It's like turning the tables almost, isn't it? Throwing down a challenge to.
It is
those who prefer the sort of PvP aspect of it say, well, yeah, we're not actually afraid of you. Come and get us.
Yeah. I love the idea of the mind games that you get to play with crews, and a lot of other people enjoy it, I'm sure, as well too.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to dive into the arena stuff, but I did want to bring up the until we know more, I imagine I'll probably want to dive into Reaper's Bones later on. But I did want to bring up one thing that really kind of falls in line with your character as well as one of my loves, and that's cats. We're finally getting cats.
Yes.
I'm so excited for this.
So am I.
It looks awesome. They've got some adorable cats that are coming to the game. And I hope this is just the start, to be honest, because there's so many breeds out there that I think a lot of people like. Yes. I really hope that there's a Siamese in the game at some point, either at launch or in the future.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody this morning, so I was saying I hope they're bringing like a Norwegian forest cat, really fluffy. Would be beautiful.
That's I would love to have. I would love to have like a really pampered and dapper Persian, to be able to sit in the captain's cabin and lay on the table and stuff. Like, I love the concept of cats because it's been something that's been in the pirate ethos for a long time. The idea in to kind of go back to the Tales of Sea of Thieves, the cat Trouble that adopted the Flameheart Jr.'s crew. Was always kind of this known quantity in the book, and I'm glad that we're finally going to be able to have that quote unquote superstitious cat on the ship. Since what was it? I think it was 2017 or I can't remember if it was. I think it was probably 2000.
The trailer.
Yeah, running along the deck, chasing after the rats and stuff. Like seeing that.
I do remember a long time ago, and I'm sure I haven't imagined it, but a very long time ago. I think it was Joe or one of the developers talking about rats and things being on the ships because obviously, it'd be nice for the cats to chase some rats. So I don't know if that's one of the things that perhaps got put to the very bottom of the list or fell by the wayside, but I'm sure I remember that being sort of talked about at some point. But
it was. I've talked to a couple other old souls from the seas, and they've confirmed that they did used to talk about the idea of seeing rats on the deck when your ship had a lot of water in it, because that was the sign that the ships were, or that the rats were ditching the ship because you weren't long for the world.
Yes. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
The concept of that is just great, because it would be one of those things that would kind of breathe a little more life into the game. It would feel a little more lived in. It's like this thing that you didn't know that was in there. Like you never see the rats, but when the ship is about to sink, it's like, oh yeah, no, you had rats, you didn't know it, but
Yeah, quick go after it. Well, I mean, one of the things Rare has done so well is like the animations of the pets that we've got. The little, it's just the little tweak of the eyes or the ears or a little turn of the head. They've done those so well, and I can't wait to see how the cats behave. The things that they're going to do and how they're going to act.
Yeah, because they have so much personality.
Yes.
So much personality, and each cat always has a different personality. And even with just the little video that we had, I definitely noticed, like the little pounce jump that they do, or the little like the Japanese cats. A lot of the Japanese cats that I've ever seen videos of, they always have their little front paws together, and they're kind of like moving it forward in a little praying motion.
Yes, that's right. Because they sort of like, I don't know, I think goes back to when they were kittens, I think. It's like, it's like a massaging type thing they do, don't they? With their paws. Lovely.
But having them kind of on the ship, kind of laying around sleeping or getting into mischief, like that's kind of the thing that I can't wait to just have as a presence. Like I love my parakeet. Sapphire Gem is my favorite pet, but I've been waiting for cats, man. This is something. So I'm probably going to pick up a few of them, and one of them is definitely going to be named Trouble, and I can't wait for that. Oh
gosh, yes, yeah.
So we're kind of getting to that point where I usually kind of wind down things for the most part. Were there any things in this update that we haven't talked about that you wanted to kind of share your excitement for? Because I know there's a lot that we're leaving on the table already, but was there any one particular thing that you think is just we have to talk about?
I'm just having a quick look through the post. I think we mentioned the cats, we talked about the emissaries, we talked about, I think it's just the possibilities, isn't it? Again, like you said, it's just bringing much more possibility for stories and experiences to the seas for everybody who wants to take part in it. And I think that's the huge thing that it's going to bring, which it's just really exciting.
Oh, I remembered. There was something that I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to I reached out to Joe, or not Joe. I reached out to Mike to try and ask this, because when I going back to the first the podcast interview that Derek did with you, one of the things that was brought up that was talked about in the Tales of Sea of Thieves dealt with the time where Diving Bell and Nine Cats Nura were come upon by Cole, who is a malicious pirate by nature, but because he's being paid to do so, and he comes from a group of people that refer to themselves as the Twisted Knife.
That's right.
He talked about how he was employed by the person who employed Flameheart Jr. to get the chest that was captured by Nura and Bell, that Flameheart Jr. was attempting to retrieve for the old lady who we presumed was from the Order of Souls. And I wanted to bring this up because we're 2 years in and we don't know anything about Flameheart Jr. We don't know anything about this supposed chest. We don't know anything about Nura or Bell or Cole, but we do have, in my mind, a reimagining of the Twisted Knife in the form of the Reaper's Bones.
Yes.
A company that is rewarding you for going out and hunting pirates on the behest of some head. And it seems interesting to me because how can I put this?
The sort of agents of Flameheart, aren't they, becoming?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because the Reaper's hideout has all this iconography on the liveries of the ship and the cosmetics and the actual place itself. And I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the fact that the Reaper's hideout has always been a place for where the masked stranger, who we found out through the journal hidden in her back compartment, or her back kind of alchemy lab on Wanderer's Refuge, that she is the masked stranger and that the time for masks will soon be gone.
Yes. Excuse
me. But we look at this Reaper's hideout, which looks like it's a new type of... I always thought this was going to be a fort. It doesn't look like it's going to be anything like a fort. But
no, I must admit, I did think it was going to be a fort. It certainly seemed to be going that way, because it followed the same sort of process as the forts that were built within the world originally, with little bits of them appearing, and then, cannons and built out of the rickety wood. Yes, you're right. Yeah. But it's not, is it?
It seemed real patchwork for sure.
Yeah.
And the thing that I can't get out of my mind when looking at like the still image, and there's a really nice article that Joe Neat put out on the Microsoft website talking about this update. But with it, there's an asset pack for fans who, if you're looking at the assets, you get a clear image of some of the stuff that was in the trailer. And one of the things that I can't help but notice is a lot of skeletal ruins and on the liveries, and the liveries themselves say skeleton, Sea King. I just blanked on what the last one was. I'm going to see if I can find it, but it's skeleton Sea King ship, I think.
Oh, on the sails, isn't it? Is it the lettering on the sails?
Yeah,
the emissary ships. Yes, I was looking at that earlier on.
Yeah, the top sail has skeleton, and then the three ruins on the bottom sail, it's Sea King ship, which I just kind of rearrange in my mind and say that it's Sea King Sea King ship, or King Sea ship, or however you want to mix it up. Essentially, the sails themselves are trying to suggest that the Reaper's bones are intending to be the rulers of the sea, pirates for all eternity. And there's,
if you go back to Athena's fortune, it's sort of like reminiscent of, it was Greymare, wasn't it, who sort of stood up against the pirate lord, said, I don't want to be part of any sort of alliance of the seas. We're sort of thieves of the sea, and it's that sort of aspect of the lore, the history of Sea of Thieves, isn't it? But I think you're right. Yes, and it does seem to suggest that they want to be kings of the sea, but also that connection with Flameheart Sr, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's
It makes me so. I'm tossing out my wild ideas about this because I on the regular I talk with Flameheart. I talk with Falcor a lot about this, and a common thread that I've noticed with this Reaper's hideout always kind of goes back to the sketches of what Wanda was doing when she was on this island, the planning that she had, and looking at the sketches in retrospect compared to what's shown in this video, it's insane to look at it and not have to bring up the fact that the skeletal ruin for Chalice is everywhere. And the only chalice, I know of two chalices, and one's not really a chalice, it's a tankard of everlasting life that was given to Ramses by Mercia.
Yes.
Or I think it was Mercia to keep his soul persistent in the Sea of Thieves. The other one being the golden chalice that Captain left as a trap for Flameheart Jr. and his crew to find and end up becoming skeletons as a result.
Yes.
And I can't help but think that at some level, and I have no confirmation on this. I have no clue. This is purely speculation. At some level, I feel like we have two different flame hearts that are kind of biting for my attention right now. I've got the flame heart that is associated with this chalice, that is the junior, who, for whatever reason, is running this Reaper's Bones that we don't know of. I don't know that that's true. I have this hunch. And the other side of it is I've got Wanda, who is a known skeleton, who is a known quantity, who is actively trying to bring back Flameheart Sr. in my mind because of the reputation that he had and how he's not used to this. And I can't decide like which Flameheart is the one that is being associated with the Reaper's Bones. I'm so conflicted about this.
Well, you're not the only one. You're not the only one, because I find it sort of quite confusing, because the Flameheart Junior, we know obviously doesn't seem capable of doing anything like this. But I mean, I can see the chalice being there, or being sort of symbolized at the Reaper's hideout as a tool of Flameheart Senior. So that's one of his tools. That's one of his, I don't know, promises, if you like, to his followers. Eternal life. But you're going to be a skeleton or an Ashen Lord or something. But then we also have this thing about, the skeletons in the Sea of Thieves are there because your bones can't rest, because you lusted after gold and instead of the glory. So it's like there's almost two different sort of factions going on, in between, with the skeletons even.
So that's you hit it. You got to the same place that I wanted to get to, which is, are we going to get into a situation where we have skeletons that are malicious and just want to murder, and then skeletons that are employed by the gold hoarder? Because the forts themselves are intended to be the tributes to Ramses, or not Ramses, Rathbone.
Rathbones, yes, yeah.
So I keep thinking, like, are we getting to a point where we have to try and delineate the difference between which skeletons we're dealing with and which is the lesser evil at this point? Because
I suppose in a way we have sort of been led here already, haven't we? By in the Tall Tales encountering Grey Marrow and him having sort of, I suppose, larger ambitions beyond being just a servant of Rathbone. So maybe it's people who were more powerful when they were alive become powerful skeletons, or skeletons with ambition, or they, I don't know, perhaps they retain a bit of their personality while they're skeletons. But the ones that you counter just pop up on the beach, they definitely seem, they're definitely lower tier, aren't they?
It really makes me wonder, because we've run into the situation where we have skeletons that appear, and most of it's because of a lust for gold, and the curse that is involved with that strips away their flesh. But we have so many cursed items in the world right now. It kind of makes me wonder, like, not all the curses do the same thing. Like there's curses that turn your skin to gold because of your dealings with it. There's curses that turn you into Briggsy. There's curses that keep you alive in a state that you can have this ashen fire in you and turn you into what looks like there's so many different curses in this world to try and keep straight. It's like, what's good, what's bad.
And Pendragon being stuck in his picture as well.
That's the curse to trap souls and the ability to release them. There's so many different things that we have to try and keep straight, that it like having this Reaper's hideout begs to question the motivations of the people that are involved with setting this place up, because I don't know that Wanda is the one that has set this up. It seems like she has, but it doesn't seem
for a long time until I knew about the book in the back of Wanda's Refuge. I wondered if the Masked Stranger could be Mercia herself, because it just seems to be the work of somebody who is very knowledgeable and very, very clever.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure Wanda's quite up to that, really. but who am I to suggest that?
She's really, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, looking at Wanda's past, she was just a smith. And if you read her journals, the further and further she goes along that path of turning into a skeleton, or a skeleton captain, the kind of breakdown that you have with her mind, a lot of her writings definitely get a lot simpler. And everything that's going on right now seems like it's very calculated. And I don't know if this is an influence of Flameheart kind of giving her a focal point and giving her attention or even power at this point, because we've been giving her tombs of power. We've been giving her tombs of curses. We've been giving her all this knowledge. And I wonder if we've essentially been educating her on how to do everything. Because of all this,
bringing her the source of the knowledge she needs to make the next step, maybe.
Yeah,
could possibly be, couldn't it?
So
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm really interested to find out more about the lore behind the Reaper's bones, because it feels like, and the really weird thing is I was looking through the trailer, and it's got the two people wearing the hooded outfits of the Reaper's bones, and they're standing on top of the spot where Wanda was for turning in Reaper's chests and stuff. It's that red circle with the stonework that has in skeletal writing the Pirates for All Eternity. I'm looking at these two chains that are attached to the wood plank, and under the guy who's kneeling with his arm across his chest is what looks like the chalice ruin on this wood plank area. And it makes me wonder, like, what is the point of this building? Like, why have they built this building on top of this thing? Like, we still don't know what is underneath. What's the cause for this red glow underneath the wood in this circle area? And it kind of goes back to the idea that in Shores of Gold, we had these same circles that were the points of keystone for opening up the different traps or kind of like vaults. And I can't help but wonder, like, is there something ancient down underneath these wood planks, this covering that we haven't been able to get access to, and if this is going to enable us to get access to it?
So the island that it's on, I'm sure there were an awful lot of the ancients' ruins, weren't there, underwater? I'm sure it's the island where there used to be a big hall with statues in at one point.
I'm trying to think. I know. So we have 3 unmarked islands. One of them is Reaper's hideout now. There's the one that's just north of Crook's Hollow, which has the ancient archway and the tunnel that leads into the cave, where you have the constellations that are marked around the inside of the cave, and then we have the other one, which is just north of Reaper's hideout,
which is more circular, isn't it? It's a circular one with the...
Yeah, it's got the shipwrecks, and it has the one cave tunnel system that has like the person who hoarded all the goods from the shipwreck, and it was one of the skeleton thrones.
Yes.
But you're not wrong about the ruins. I think the cover stones were uncovered over the course of the last 9 months now, and the thing that has always kind of made me wonder what's going on with this is we know absolutely nothing about this island. It was unmarked. It was never a point of focus in the game until this whole plot came along. And I'm wondering if there's a lot more to this island than we're led to believe.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, Flameheart being sort of like a disembodied head in the Devil's Roar isn't going to sort of. He needs something else, doesn't he, to sort of sustain him? I suppose he has to reside somewhere. So maybe he resides down there, or a source of power is down there. Keeping him, sustaining him as he is now, perhaps. It could be quite scary, couldn't it, down there?
Probably, to be honest. But that's kind of the interesting. Like, do you have to go and carry out Flameheart's desire to bring piracy to the seas and break up alliances and all the things that he hated in that speech that he had in the Devil's Roar? Yeah. If you commit yourself to the Reaper's bones, are you picking a side? Are you picking a faction and saying, hey, everything the Pirate Lord wanted, that pirate legend status that you have, revoke that and work for me kind of thing? Because that's a crazy idea. The idea of picking a side, like what if this Reaper's Bones faction asks you to kind of break yourself from Ramsey and say, hey, you if you want to join here, you have to give up your pirate legend status. You have to run.
Yeah. And can you change your mind if you halfway through, if you don't really like the idea, Can you go back on your head and sign the contract with the devil? It could be.
It's such an interesting concept that there's so much potential in this, like, because I mean I come from the I've been playing World of Warcraft over the last 15 years. I'm used to having a side. I'm used to having, like, I'm Horde. That's who I represent. We deal with honor, and we deal with bringing in the refugees and stuff. I'm not a part of the Alliance, who are part of the old factions of the world. Like, I'm used to the idea of, look, you're either Reaper's Bones or your pirate legend. Which is it gonna be? Because you can't have the best of both worlds.
No, that's right.
I like the idea of having this concept where you have to pick a side, but only when you're ready.
Yeah.
So
I wonder. I'm just sort of trying to imagine in my head how it would play out. Would it end up, or could you end up somewhere where you have something like cursed sails, for instance, except the fleets you're going up against with your allies are the Reaper's Bones pirates,
Yeah. Or go even crazier and have an event that's like Cursed Sails, but you're going up against Reaper's Bones, but you are the Reaper's Bones, and the crew that you're going up against are the pirate legends.
Yes.
And
that right there, that too.
Having an entire event centered around the idea of having these two warring factions on the seas. You've got the Reapers and you've got the Legends, and having them mortally pitted against each other because one's about the goal, or one's about the glory of adventure and storytelling, the journey, and the other's the glory of victory and the glory of dominance on the seas. And man, that's an epic thought to even pose.
Yes,
but
the implications of that are quite interesting. And what do you do when that's all done with? Do you go back to back on the Sea of Thieves, and we're just going to carry on as normal now? Once you set that stuff in motion, where do you go? Where do you go with it? Yeah, I mean, because a lot of the time, it's having sort of Sea of Thieves be this lovely open sandbox with people sort of in crews sort of encountering each other. It's been, I know they've talked about it a lot as being a little bit of a social experiment, seeing, if we do this action, how does it affect how people play? If we do this action, how does it affect how people play, and we know that they have in the past sort of tweaked things that to sort of encourage different styles of gameplay. But this would be, something like, the Reaper's Bones, and splitting us up and, renounce your Pirate Legend status would be quite monumental, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be, it would definitely bring a choice to players to decide, where, because for the game, it's always just been the end game, or not an end game in the sense of other games, but it's always been getting to the point where you're Pirate Legend, and a lot of the community have felt that they're in the mindset where they're so used to playing a game to reach max level, to completing the storyline, to finishing, to rolling credits, essentially. Yeah. So Pirate Legend and Athena 10 have always been these goalposts for them.
Yes. Yeah.
So when they get to that, especially if you got to that fairly early in the game's life, it always felt like, oh, well, all I'm doing is just working on more of the same. There's not really a reward in that sense. And I wonder if they would be the ones to have that mentality, have that sense of dissatisfaction with the end result of being a Pirate Legend, that they would faithfully renounce Pirate Legend status to become a Reaper's Bone in an effort to have a bit of glory and a bit of power on the Sea of Thieves as a Reaper's Bone representative.
Yeah, I think they possibly would. I mean, there are so many there seem to be a lot of Pirate Legends now, don't they? And like you say, it is the goalpost that everybody aims for. But I mean, I know certainly my crew, we're very sort of grey in what we do. We're not sort of out and out PvPers, and we're not sort of, running around looking for just PvE action. We're very much in the grey area, and this is going to be a difficult choice, isn't it? If you are in that sort of grey area, which side are you going to come down on?
Yeah.
Which side is
But I think the thing that I like about this is anything that Rare doesn't feel like it is set in stone, that there's always an opportunity to change your mind. It never feels like anything you do is, and I mean, this is evident with, if you look at the concept of ships, they don't persist from session to session. So whatever you do in the world is only goes as far as the reputation that you have, that you don't lose reputation ever. You only ever gain reputation. There's not really any kind of losing in the game. Even when you die, you don't necessarily die. You just go to the ferry.
No.
And
that's the other thing we haven't talked about, is reviving, isn't it?
Yeah, we haven't even dove into that.
No. But like you say, it isn't. It's very gentle on you in a way. Yeah. Although emotionally it's not, is it? Because even though, if you sink, whether it's to a lava bomb from the sky or from the 9-year-old over there who can shoot better than you can, and your treasure's floating up to the surface of the sea, it stings. It's quite a powerful thing, especially as these are all objects, in the world that you can carry around. It just makes it even more insulting, doesn't it? When you lose a lot.
Yeah. The amount of effort to try and reclaim what's yours, and maybe only getting like a bit of that, it's definitely like, I don't think I've ever lost a Fort of the Damned, but I've definitely taken a lot of Fort of the Damned loot, and the feeling of knowing that you can only get a bit of it instead of not getting all of it is so unsatisfying at times. And I can imagine it's even more disheartening when you get to, I have lost an Athena from a Fort of the Damned. I did lose one once, but we got very lax, and that was our fault. So it's definitely one of those situations where there is a sense of disheartened, taste in your mouth when when you don't get to grab every piece of loot and hold on to it and turn it in and get that satisfying rep and gold from it. So it's interesting. And you're right. We haven't actually dove into the whole revival thing. And that's an interesting thing, because I think if anything, it will lend itself well to console players, which I think is the one thing that I think has been kind of the biggest issue, is if there's anything you can do to prevent going to the Ferry of the Damned where you have to deal with loading. Yes. It feels like the revival system will be a way for people to be able to circumnavigate that issue.
Yeah. So like when you have the people who, are on console and they still want to sail with their sort of PC crew, they're not disadvantaged, are they? Because now you can be revived and back again, and it cuts that out, which I know can be really irritating for some people. And again, it's just a very elegant way of solving another problem that players were encountering in the game. I mean, Rare could have just added another 10 levels to Athena and said, right, here you go, here's, you're the super Athena legend or whatever it is, level 20 or whatever, which would be extremely lazy. But here, the whole thing is just so carefully thought out, I think. Made interesting for us.
I'm very curious with the revival if you come back at full health or with a portion of health, because that can definitely impact a fight if you're dealing with multiple galleons.
Yes,
having someone come back at full health, it's a lot, because you only get 5 shots of a gun, and full health takes at least 2 with 2/3 of the weapons that we have. So if it's just a portion, I can see that being frustrating, because you revive, you've got less than half health. Any shot from a distance is going to have a good opportunity of putting you right back down.
Yeah, so this is true. Yeah, I mean, I think what it'll do is you'll have to be a lot more skillful, won't you, fighting other crews, because you can't rely on the fact that yes, you can knock 2 down. They're going to be like 30 seconds on the ferry, and you can sort of sink the ship in that amount of time because there's only 1 crew left. That's not going to happen anymore, is it? So there's going to be some quite intense battles, I think, going on out there.
You're going to have to kind of guard the souls as they leave. If you're in that situation where it's 1v3, taking out one person used to be fairly safe because it would eliminate the threat from an entire person. But if you're on the deck of a ship and there's 2 bodies next to you and a third that's trying to revive, if they're able to knock you off the ship with a blunder bomb, or if they're able to push you in a different area where you have to go reload your weapons, that's an opportunity for them to revive. And then it could be back up to 2v1.
Yeah.
Or 3v1.
Right. Yeah.
So
very interesting times.
It really will be. It'll be interesting to see how things progress with this system. And the one thing I will say to anyone that's concerned about this is Rare is very agile when it comes to changes. Yes. They can tweak stuff at any given time and push out a patch. We've seen that as a result of the Heart of Fire, when we had the critical error that was sending people from the Ferry of the Damned that were working on tall tales for the Shores of Gold to the Heart of the Gold, or Heart of Fire. So we know that that's definitely something that they can work with. If it's not working, they can always disable it, work on it later.
That's right.
But at least,
absolutely.
So we'll have to see, and a lot of it just comes down to how are people going to take it beyond the first week of playing around with it, because I think everyone, if the barrel system's anything. Any measure of how the community reacts,
or the death
they're going to hate it. Yeah, or the death tax. Yeah, they'll hate it till they love it, and then they can't live without it.
That's
So
right. Exactly that. Exactly that. I
we'll
mean, I
have to
think
see.
what the Sea of Thieves community has shown, I think, since the beginning, is that we're very adaptable. In the end, we can
For
be dragged
sure.
screaming to the other side of changes, and
Definitely. I
learn
was
to love
watching a
them.
video the other day of where it was beta footage, and I was watching me as I was running around gathering supplies, and it was crazy in my mind as I was watching this, and I was like, oh, well, that barrel has bananas, and I will just spam the button to get the bananas, and that barrel has cannonballs, so I will spam the button to get the cannonballs, and then I'll go over to and I was like, what world did we live in where all we had was bananas, planks, and cannonballs, and each barrel was its own thing?
I know, and every single change that's come in since then, just think what we've got now compared to what we had then. How the Sea of Thieves has progressed.
It really has,
Incredible.
and it's amazing to know that a lot of the community has helped impact that.
Yes.
We've put in our thoughts and our theories and our desires, and Rare has taken their internal process of what they want to do and tried to weave in as much of it as they can.
Yes.
And I mean, I could talk all day with you about this stuff. I'm going to leave some because you told me that I should reach out to Amir, and
Yes.
I think I'm going to try and get the Rare Thief crew onto the podcast for next week if things work out, if scheduling works out. My thought is to have the pair of them on next week's episode. So I want to leave something to talk about with them.
Wonderful.
Before we actually get the actual update. But Kat, I wanted to just say that it's been a real pleasure. We've been working on the Pixel Seas separately, but as a
Yes.
community. So it's been great to see the feedback from that as people get a chance to go in and play around with that. But I really can't say thank you in a way that really encapsulates just how much I appreciate what you've done for this community, not only as a deckhand, not only as a human being, not only as the queen of retweets, but just being a pirate and having that passion for piracy and helping build like the pirate code for us as a lot of us latecomers to the beginning of the game felt so behind already, just as the game was getting into beta, and you'd already laid the groundwork for us. And I can't thank you enough for continuing to be committed to this game as much as you have been.
You're very welcome. But, it's people like yourself that inspire that. Yeah, I have to say. So without the rest of you, I couldn't do what I do.
Well, I really appreciate it. If you you're on Twitter, you're on the forums and stuff, but if you can share what your handle is and where people can find you, I definitely want to make sure people know how to get in touch with you if they want to say thanks or just get to actually start following all your retweets.
Yeah, well, I'm Kat Truewalker. Almost everywhere, either with 3 T's or with 2 T's, but you'll find me. On most of the internet. Yep.
Awesome. Oh, I really appreciate you coming by, and thank you again. It's been a true pleasure.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
All right, pirates, that's going to do it for this episode of Keelhauled. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. I know I did. I had a good time listening and talking with Kat and going back over this. We talked about a lot of really awesome stuff, and I just want to shout out to, I think it's Refrigerator on the German iTunes review for putting in a review. I very much appreciate it, and really appreciate that you went ahead and put the English translation for there. It was really nice to read that. So thank you very much for your review. If I mistranslated that, I am very sorry, because that's what Google told me, and I have to trust Google for a lot of stuff. But anyway, to all my international friends and listeners, I hope you are all having a good, safe time staying away from coconut fever, staying away from those reapers out there trying to take your treasure. Make sure you sink as many people as you can, take their loot, and have a wonderful week. And with that, pirates, if you want to get a hold of me, I am still looking for stories. I am still looking to get more of those together, so that if I can get in touch with I guess I'll just say it. I'll just say the Dread Pirate Doug, who's in charge of the Race of Legends. He and I were talking about an interesting thing, and if it comes to fruition, it'll be awesome, but I need your stories. So type them up, send them to me. The best way to do that, to email CaptainLogun@gmail.com. If that's not going to work out for you, feel free to message me in Discord. The link to the Discord is always in the show notes. Just go over to the show notes and click on the link. It'll take you to the Discord server where you can chat with everyone else in the Discord server who has been sailing all week during this Gold and Glory weekend that we didn't find out about until Friday. And man, is it kind of crazy that kind of stuff just pops up and I don't get a chance to really talk about it in time to warn you about these kind of things. I would like to have a little more heads up so that I can let you know when these things are going to happen, so that if you're listening to these on time, you get an opportunity to actually get some time scheduled out so you can go sailing. But hopefully you saw Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the different social media channels that Rare is out there present at, and you were able to get some good gold and some good glory this weekend. I know a lot of people were able to get 3 people I know. 2 from Kaida's crew got over 100 million gold. And shout out to Toiger, who also got over 100 million gold now. That is a lot of gold. And shout out to Skinless Brute, or more commonly known Chris Marlowe, who works over at Rare. He just recently hit Athena 10, as well as many of the other members of the Discord server. I saw a lot of people hitting Athena 10 this weekend because of the Golden Glory weekend, and it is awesome because we are getting closer and closer to that level cap raise, with April 22nd being that cutoff date. That is when the update goes live. So again, send the stories to CaptainLogun@gmail.com. If that doesn't work, if the Discord doesn't work, you can always message me on Twitter at CAPT_LOGUN. Heck, if you really want to, you can always look me up on my Gamertag, which is CaptainLogun, CaptainLogun, all one word smushed together, nothing weird in there. Message me through Xbox. Type up if you're crazy enough to type up your story using a controller, if you don't have a keyboard or a chat pad, kudos, let me know, because that's awesome. But definitely get your stories to me, because I really want them. I really want to have them for this special thing that we're trying to work out with the Dread Pirate Doug. And I think that's going to do it. Pirates, thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to share this with other people. I don't do advertisements in the show. This is a passion thing. I'd love to be able to make money off of this, but I need more listeners and more pirates listening to this, because if I get a big enough listener base. If I get a big enough listener base, then I'll finally be able to start approaching some advertisers that I want to have for the podcast. Because like Audible, I would love to be able to earn income from Audible because I use them. So if I could earn enough to pay for the subscription that I constantly pay for, I would love to, because I love listening to audiobooks. If you're listening to this, I'm sure you love listening to books as well. They're a great way to do that. I'm not going to give them free advertising. Anyway, I listen to Audible all the time. I would love to have them as a sponsor, but I need more listeners to be able to do that. I also need to make a website to do that, so I got to get on that too. So there's a few things that I need to get on. Apparently, 2020 needs to be that year where I use my time at home, which I still don't really get a whole lot of, to work on building up the things I need to do to be able to make this a little more than just a passion project. So I'm also looking to, sorry, I know this is going long, but I also am looking to try and get some interviews with a couple people for Shore Leave episodes that aren't necessarily Sea of Thieves related. So you may see those drop into the feed. I've been thinking about that, as well as an Animal Crossing review, and possibly talking about some other games that have recently come out, or maybe the state of the industry at the moment, because I've got friends that are in the industry and they're impacted right now. And I think it's something that's worth talking about to try and explain maybe to some people who aren't keeping up with the news about what the coconut fever is doing to everyone. But it's important to me to keep that as a Shore Leave episode. So if I do that, it's going to be a Shore Leave episode. It won't be tied directly into Sea of Thieves news, so you won't have to worry about that kind of stuff mixing in as much as like Animal Crossing has in the past. So, but I think that's enough. I think I've talked long enough. You've been listening to this for so long. I love you guys so much. I hope this was able to give you some comfort. I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're all washing your hands, washing your feet. And with that, pirates, thank you. I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, but who was the captain that gave Junior the chalice?